Okay, think about this for a second. 53 million pounds. Stolen, just like that, in cash, from a depot down in Kent back in 2006.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the kind of number that's almost impossible to really wrap your head around, isn't it?
totally.
Even something legendary like the Great Train Robbery seemed like, well, small change in comparison.
It really does. And that's the story we're getting into today. Britain's biggest cash
Sure,
robbery.
exactly.
And I think what makes this deep dive so interesting is just the amount of material we've got. News reports from the time, the legal stuff years later.
Right, and Howard Sound's book, Heist. That seems really detailed.
Oh, yeah, it's meticulous, really gets into the nuts and bolts. Plus, there's that YouTube documentary transcript, which adds another angle, another perspective.
So our mission here really isn't just to list facts. It's for you listening to get a feel for the key bits of this, well, frankly, incredible crime.
Yeah, the sheer audacity of it.
The audacity, the twists you don't see coming, and how it all kind of echoed afterwards, without getting totally bogged down.
We're looking for those aha moments.
Those aha moments, exactly. The bits that make you go, wow, okay. And what's fascinating right off the bat, something the book points out, is the crew involved. A used car salesman, some Albanian casual workers, a roofer. I mean, it's not exactly the Ocean's 11 lineup you might picture for stealing 53 million.
No, it's quite the mix. So where does a plan this huge even start? How do they even begin to think about this?
Well, the sources are pretty clear. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing.
Right.
They were watching that Securitas depot for a whole year.
A year.
A year of surveillance. That tells you something about the level of planning, the commitment involved. They were really studying the place, routine, security, looking for any weak spots.
And it wasn't just watching from afar, was it? They actually got someone inside. Emir Hisanaj.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Hisanaj is, absolutely central. He was working for the post office, but then managed to actually get a job at the Securitas depot.
Which is, a classic tactic in these big heists, isn't it? Planting someone. His knowledge, the layout, the procedures, who did what when that was gold dust for the gang.
So how do you convince someone to do that, to be the inside man for Britain's biggest robbery?
Well, the suggestion is Hisanaj was first put in a job at a shopping center in Royal Tunbridge Wells.
Okay.
Maybe as a kind of test, see if he was reliable, see if he was up for bending the rules before they moved him to the big leagues, the depot itself.
Like a trial run.
Sort of a gradual thing, yeah. Maybe building loyalty, testing the waters.
It sounds quite methodical in a way.
Yeah.
And having him inside meant they could get really specific intel, like using that spy camera.
Yeah.
What was the deal with that?
Oh, the spy camera story is brilliant. It kind of shows this weird mix of high-tech ambitions and basic fumbling.
Right.
Lee Murray, the guy often called the mastermind, he buys the spy camera, but then they apparently get glue on the lens.
No.
Yeah, they had to take it back for a replacement. It just shows, even with big plans, simple human error creeps in.
That's amazing.
And get this, Paul Allen, going back for the replacement camera, gets pulled over for speeding in an uninsured car with no MOT.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
With millions potentially on the line.
I know, it's just unbelievable recklessness, isn't it? When the stakes are that high.
You'd think they'd be driving Miss Daisy and double-checking the camera instructions. It really shows that odd mix. Planning meets, well, not planning.
Yeah, planning meets chaos.
And that wasn't Murray's only bit of risky behavior beforehand?
Not by a long shot. Just days before the robbery, he crashes his yellow Ferrari in London, after a night out apparently, and then just runs off, leaves the scene. Seriously. And the police, when they impound the car, find burner phones inside.
Oh, brilliant.
With numbers for other gang members.
And even photos.
I mean, talk about poor operational security.
It just beggars belief. And didn't he accidentally record something incriminating too?
He did. That's the other thing. On one of those phones, he accidentally recorded himself chatting with Leah Russia about the robbery plans.
Wow. What does that say? Overconfidence? Arrogance?
It definitely suggests they felt pretty untouchable, I think. A bit of arrogance, maybe. It's a classic example of how even complex plans can trip up on simple, careless mistakes.
Yeah, failing to maintain basic discipline. But alongside these slip-ups, they were getting ready physically too, weren't they? Buying gear.
Oh, yeah. They got hold of Kent police cap badges, a police-style pullover, one of those fluorescent jackets.
Clearly setting up the police impersonation angle.
Exactly. And they bought identical paintball masks, too, the same type they ended up wearing during the actual raid inside the depot.
It's those little details, isn't it? They show the thought process, even if other parts were surprisingly messy.
Precisely. You put it all together, Heisenaz's inside info, the surveillance, the disguises. It paints this picture of a plan with, like, multiple layers designed to get around security, create confusion.
Okay, so the intel's gathered, the gear's ready. Let's get to the night itself. How did it kick off? With the manager, Colin Dixon.
Right. Evening of February 21st, 2006. That's when it really starts. Colin Dixon is driving home. Then, this dark Volvo S60, kitted out with blue flashing lights, their fake police car signals him to pull over.
Straight for the Q-man.
Exactly. Neutralize the person with authority. That's a common move. Two men, dressed like police officers, walk up to his car.
And Dixon naturally thinks it's a genuine stop.
He does, yeah. Follows their instructions, engine off, gets out, and bam, immediately handcuffed, bundled into the Volvo.
Just like that.
Just like that. They moved his car, initially pretended they were taking him to the station, then the guns came out, the threats. He was tied up, moved to a white van, and eventually driven to Elderton Farm in Staplehurst. A very quick, very brutal abduction.
And the really awful part is they went for his family at the same time.
That speaks
volumes about how ruthless they were, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It shows they were prepared to do whatever it took, using his family like that. It just underlines the ruthlessness, the complete disregard for innocent people caught up in it.
So, while Dixon's being taken...
Exactly. Another pair, also pretending to be police, knock on his door, tell his wife, Lynn, that Colin's been in a bad car accident.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And that she and their young child need to come with them to the hospital right away. Of course, they didn't go to hospital. They were taken to the same place, Elderton Farm.
So Dixon and his family are captives at this farm. What was the point of that? Just terror or...
It was about information, primarily. With his family there, under threat, they interrogated Dixon at gunpoint.
Right.
They wanted everything. Alarm details, access codes, how things worked inside, who was on shift. All the crucial details they needed to actually get inside the Securitas depot. His family's safety was the leverage.
Horrific pressure to be under.
Unimaginable. The choices he must have felt he had or didn't have.
Okay, so they've got Dixon. They've presumably squeezed the information out of him. Now they move on the depot itself. How did that unfold?
Around 1 a.m., February 22nd, 3 vehicles leave the farm for the depot, Dixon's own car with him and some captors inside, plus the lorry they plan to use and the fake police car.
The convoy heads out.
They get to the depot about 1:21 a.m. Dixon walks up to the pedestrian entrance with one of the gang dressed as a policeman right next to him. He rings the buzzer.
And the guard inside
sees his manager, sees someone who looks like a cop, buzzes them straight in, no suspicion. That's how effective the disguise and exploiting that trust was.
And then all hell breaks loose, I imagine.
Pretty much. The gang, 7 of them inside, just storm in. Masks on and seriously armed. We're talking shotguns, handguns, an AK-47, even a Corpion machine pistol.
Wow, heavy weaponry.
Definitely. They rounded up the 14 staff members on duty very quickly. The sheer firepower meant nobody was going to resist. It's interesting, the police watching the CCTV later gave them nicknames, you know?
Like what?
Policemen, obviously. Stopwatch, maybe timing things. Shorty, Hoodie, Mr. Average. Based on how they looked or acted. They were wearing bulletproof vests, too, so they were ready for trouble.
Must have been absolutely terrifying for the staff locked in there.
Unimaginably so. Right, so the main goal, the cash. How did they actually plan to move that much money?
Yeah, 53 million quid isn't exactly pocket change.
Their first idea was to load the metal cages, the ones packed with banknotes, straight onto the lorry.
Makes sense.
Except these cages were incredibly heavy. Some weighed 1/4 of a ton, holding millions each. It was just too slow, too difficult.
Not as easy as it looks on TV.
Definitely not. Apparently, one employee tried to sabotage things by deliberately crashing a power lifter.
Bit of quick thinking there.
Yeah, but then Dixon was forced to use a pallet mover instead. And at one point, things got tense. The one nicknamed Hoodie got suspicious about how slow it was going, actually pointed a gun right at Dixon's head.
Jesus, so the cage plan wasn't working.
No. So they switched tactics. They ended up just manually grabbing bundles of cash and throwing them into shopping trolleys.
Shopping trolleys?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Seriously. All that planning, surveillance, inside man. And it comes down to loading cash into shopping carts. It just shows that gap between the sophisticated plan and the messy reality on the ground.
But even with shopping trolleys, they still got away with an unbelievable amount.
They did. Despite all the fumbling, nearly 53 million pounds in used and new notes.
And the truly crazy part.
The crazy part is they left 154 million behind.
Just couldn't fit it.
Couldn't fit it in the lorry. Simple as that. They managed 17 cages and 3 trolleys full. Then, before they left, around 2:44 a.m., they did something truly awful.
What was that?
They locked all the staff and Dixon's wife and child inside empty cash cages.
Oh my God. Dehumanizing, isn't it? Just horrible. One of them apparently shouted something crude as they drove off, and the alarm, it wasn't raised until 3:15 a.m.
So they had a clear run for nearly half an hour.
Yep. A significant head start, which shows, again, how well the initial deception worked and how isolated that depot was at night. A shocking sequence of events. So they've got away clean initially. What were the first breaks for the police? How did they start picking up the trail?
Things started moving pretty quickly, actually. Within a week, some big clues surfaced. A white Ford Transit van, tied to a couple of the suspects, was found abandoned in the car park of the Ashford International Hotel.
And inside?
Inside, over 1.3 million in stolen notes, plus a balaclava, a bulletproof vest, and that Accorpion submachine gun.
Wow, okay.
Oh.
That's a major find right away.
Huge. Gave the investigation real momentum. Then they raided the homes of Jetmir Bufapa and Leah Rusha. At Rocha's place, they found surveillance tapes of Colin Dixon's house.
Ah, connecting them directly.
Directly. Plus weapons, plans of the depot, Royal Mail gear maybe for other disguises, and a police scanner, just tons of incriminating stuff.
Seems like they got a bit careless after the event compared to the planning phase.
That's a really good point. Maybe the focus shifted entirely to the getaway, and they just dropped the ball in covering their tracks afterward.
Makes sense. And arrests started happening soon after.
Yeah. Stuart Royal got picked up in Tankerton. Police actually had to shoot out his car tires.
Dramatic.
Very. Then Boospapa and Russia were caught in Deptford, London. Same thing, police had to disable their car with gunfire to stop them.
So, high-speed pursuits and arrests.
Seems like it. And the white lorry from the heist, found at a higher center. A search back at Elderton Farm, where the Dixons were held, turned up another 135,000 pounds or so hidden away.
So the net was tightening fast, but the main guys, Murray and Allen, they'd already bolted, hadn't they?
They had vanished. Just 4 days after the robbery, they were out of the UK, went via Amsterdam, ended up in Morocco.
Morocco?
Yeah, and apparently started living it up immediately. Reports of expensive houses, flash cars, jewelry, drugs, you know, the whole 9 yards. Trying to enjoy the spoils while evading the law back home.
Living the high life on stolen cash. But that kind of freedom rarely lasts, does it?
Not usually, no. And back in the UK, the police weren't letting up. They got another massive breakthrough raiding a unit in Welling connected to Roger Pouts, who was a van dealer.
And what did they find there?
Inside a shipping container. Nearly 10 million. Just sitting there in cash.
10 million. Incredible.
Incredible find. And then another big stash, over 8.6 million, found in a lockup garage in Southborough, which was near where Russia lived.
So the money is starting to pile up for the police.
It is. And then they nabbed a businessman, Ian Mabom, on the M25. He had almost £1 million in stolen notes in his car. Suspected money launderer, basically.
Right. Trying to clean the cash.
Exactly. Which highlights, you know, just how hard it is to actually use that much illegal cash without getting caught. It's a huge logistical problem for criminals.
So pieces falling into place, money recovered, people arrested. Eventually it moves to the courts. What happened at the trials?
The first big trial was at the Old Bailey, started in 2007. 5 guys, Jetmir Boospapa, Roger Couts, the Inside Man, Amir Hassanaj, Stuart Royal, and Leah Rusha.
The core group, mostly.
Pretty much. They were all convicted in January 2008. Conspiracy to rob, kidnap, firearms charges, the lot.
And the sentences?
Serious time. Boospapa, Couts, Royal, and Rusha all got life sentences, with a minimum of 15 years.
15 years minimum for those 4.
Yeah. And Hassanaj, the insider, he got 20 years. Reflecting his crucial role, I suppose.
Right. And wasn't there someone who made disguises?
Yes. A woman who'd made prosthetic disguises for them. She ended up testifying for the prosecution, and the charges against her were dropped. Shows the kind of deals that get made in these complex cases.
Okay, so that's the 5 main ones tried in the UK initially. What about Allen and Murray, the fugitives in Morocco?
Well, Paul Allen was eventually extradited back to the UK. His first trial actually ended with a hung jury. They couldn't agree.
Oh, interesting.
But then he pleaded guilty. Conspiracy to rob, kidnap, firearms. Got 18 years.
18 years for Allen. And Murray.
Murray was different. He managed to fight off extradition. claim Moroccan nationality through his father, and Morocco doesn't usually extradite its own citizens.
So he stayed in Morocco.
He did, but he didn't get away with it. He was tried there, in Morocco, for the robbery. Got 10 years initially, but that was then up to 25 years on appeal.
25 years in a Moroccan prison.
Exactly. The judge back in the UK summed up the whole robbery pretty well, didn't he? Meticulously prepared and ruthlessly executed.
Yeah, that captures it. Despite the shopping trolleys and the glue on the camera lens.
Despite those moments, yeah, the core of it was seen as very serious, very organized crime.
So lots of convictions, long sentences, but a huge amount of the money, what was it, 32 million?
Yeah.
Still missing years later.
Still missing, as of 2016 at least. That's the big question mark hanging over the whole thing, isn't it? Where did all that cash go?
Any strong theories?
The main suspicion is always that other gang members, ones who were never caught, might have slipped away and are living off it somewhere. Or maybe it's been laundered very slowly, carefully, invested in other criminal ventures. It's incredibly hard to trace that amount of physical cash once it disappears.
Yeah, a real challenge for law enforcement. And the story doesn't quite stop there, does it? There's been some pretty grim follow-up violence linked to this case, even recently.
Tragically, yes. Paul Allen, after he was released from prison, in 2019, he was shot multiple times at his home in North London.
Shot? How badly?
Badly enough to leave him paralyzed. 3 men were later convicted not just for the shooting, but for plotting to murder him back in July 2019.
Wow. Why? Any idea on the motive?
The belief is it was linked to an earlier attempt on his life in 2018. It really suggests, ongoing feuds, criminal connections, unresolved business stemming right back to the heist and all that missing money.
It shows the danger just doesn't end when the prison sentences are served.
Not at all. These things cast very long, very violent shadows.
And I read some of the others convicted are looking for release now, too.
That's right. Leah Russia and Stuart Royal, the ones who got life with 15-year minimums, they've been making bids for parole. It's nearly a decade after Paul Allen actually got out.
Right. And Allen got out, even though he still owed millions from a confiscation order.
Yeah, that's another point. He was released despite still owing, I think, a big chunk of a $1.9 million order to repay some of the proceeds of the crime, which, raises questions about how effective those asset recovery efforts really are in the long run.
It just highlights the lingering complexities, doesn't it? 32 million still out there, attempted murder years later, parole bids. It feels like this story is far from over in some ways.
It really does. The sheer size of the theft, the money that just vanished, the violence that followed, it all points to something much deeper than just a single robbery and the initial arrests. It's a stark reminder of the lasting impact of major crime.
So let's try and pull it together. We've seen this incredibly bold plan, right? Years in the making, insider help, some very careful prep.
Yeah, the surveillance, the disguises.
But then also the terrifying kidnappings, the really violent robbery itself, which also had moments of sheer chaos, luck even.
Definitely. The cages being too heavy, resorting to shopping trolleys.
Followed by this huge police investigation, international manhunt, getting a chunk of the money back, lots of convictions.
Right.
But still, that massive sum missing and the violence continuing years down the line. It's such a strange mix of, clever planning and almost unbelievable screw-ups.
It is. That's what makes it so fascinating, I think. The audacity is off the charts, but then you dig into the details and you see that constant tension between the meticulous design and moments of just carelessness or bad luck.
Or good luck, depending on your perspective at the time.
True. And the international angle, the mystery of the missing millions, it all adds to why this story still grabs people, why we're still talking about it.
And it really does make you wonder, doesn't it, with 32 million pounds still floating around somewhere, and that violent attack on Paul Allen years after his release, is there really an end to this story? Or are there still chapters playing out? What does it tell us about the lure of that kind of money and the long-term brutal consequences of going after it like this, not just for the robbers, but maybe ripple effects we don't even see?
Yeah, does a crime like this ever truly conclude? Or does it just morph into new problems, new violence, new mysteries? It's definitely something to think about.